Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I want to give a nice thank you to all the organizers who organized this conference. My first one, so hopefully it's with all the other presentations. I know I'm the last presentation here before lunch, so I'll try and keep it brief, and we'll get through this nice and quickly, and with time to spare. Like all the other presentations here, notice that it's in PowerPoint, so I did mine in open source, Libra, so hopefully that goes over nicely with the theme that I have here in this presentation. It's also it's not as my counterparts that went before me, it's more of a technical sort of way of doing things other than informational. So again, I'm Mitch McFarlane, and this is Takla, a nation's way of creating base maps for collecting information on the landscape. And as you see up here, I have a nice map of the Takla territory. Prince George is down over here, off the map, I guess, hard to see. But Takla Nation is located, the main community of Takla Landing, which is located about right here. It's about, depending on how fast you go, I've seen community members go faster than I do on the dirt roads, but it could be anywhere from 3 to 4 hour drive from Port St. James up north to the main community. The territory itself is quite large. It's about 4 million hectares big. Stretches from Williston Reservoir in the east all the way to almost Babine Lake in the west, all the way up to about Kemess Mine and that area up there. And just south of Inzana Lake in the south. So, quite a large territory. Just a brief introduction to who I am. I'm from Prince George. I'm born and raised here. I obtained my education right here at UNBC, obtaining a Bachelor of Arts from the Geography Department with a minor in GIS under Scott Emmons there and Roger. And of all things, I got a double minor, and I chose psychology for some odd reason. Makes me communicate with people a little better. So, I started at Takla Nation, obtaining an internship in my last year at the university, and I secured it through Scott over there. And I obtained to do various GIS and information management projects that Takla sorely needed at the time, and they were nice and small. It's since evolved into a full-time position where I'm now the full-time GIS technician / stewardship portal administrator. I take up the garbage from time to time. It's a good job. Back in about 3 years or so, I've been there for 3 years. Back in the day, there must have been 3 people in the lands and stewardship department where I worked, and now we've grown to, just in the department alone, to 12 full-time positions. So it's a rapidly, through great leadership, it's a rapidly expanding nation. So getting to the topic at hand, building base maps for application use, for data collection. These are the applications that are kind of used in my process of getting the base maps. So the short-term version of this whole presentation is that we tile them. We just get them in tile. But how do we go about doing that? So the first part is using QGIS. I'm sure a lot of you know about QGIS or know of it, and maybe some of you use it, maybe some want to use it a little bit more. It's free and open source. It's my go-to GIS software for anything that I need to do. Within that, within QGIS, it's very powerful in the sense that there are third-party apps from all kinds of people. Plugins, are put into QGIS and used. And one of those plugins that is very useful in this process is called the Tiles plugin. I'll dive a little deeper into that as well. And then to end it all off, another great app that we discovered recently is Geopaparazzi, a GIS data collection app. I'll go a little further deeper into that, but that's where all the base maps end up eventually. And it's quite a powerful tool when collecting georeference points, forms, pictures, videos, and whatnot. If you were in Scott's workshop yesterday, he probably mentioned Phosphor-G, and that's free and open source for geospatial stuff, so that's all that I'm using. Before we dive into the first part of the process, I thought it was relevant and to look at the zoom levels and tiles of how tiles sort of work. So if you think about the world, this helpful grid here, or this helpful table, explains how many tiles it would take to cover the world at certain zoom levels. So at zoom level 0, which is the entire world, you only need one tile because of the scale that it's represented at. Once you go down further to about 1 to 250 million, then you're going to need at least 4 tiles, and then it just grows exponentially through that. So it's good to know that when I start talking about the process and how we grab these tiles and make them and bring them into the application. So as you can see down the list, it just grows. Here's the column of tiles. It just grows more and more and more as you even get to level zoom level 18, where 68 billion 719 million, give or take, tiles that would take to cover the entire world at that scale, which is 1 to 2,000. At the note, I have the note down there that says more zoom levels equals more tiles to process. So when I show you guys more of the process, you got to keep that in mind, because you need to kind of tailor your zoom levels to what your project area is, because you don't want to create too many tiles and too many processing. You'll be waiting there forever. So this is just a little graph here, just visual of what that kind of looks like. So we got the whole world here, zoom level 0, and you have the whole map there, and then you go split into 4, and then 16, and that's kind of how it works down the line. A tile map consists of a grid, or a pyramid if you like to think of it that way, of images given the extent of the map across various scales. So for Takla territory, it's not the world, obviously, it's still pretty big. So to start zoom level, I found that works best is zoom level 7, and then you can kind of end up making it go into zoom level 16 with getting a pretty good resolution with the base maps that you use. I found this interesting tool from Geopaparazzi. The link's down there below. Found it actually just last week, where you can draw an extent of the area of the world, and it kind of did a rough guesstimate of where the Takla territory is. And I don't know if it's pretty visible, but it kind of gives you an idea of how many tiles it would take to generate for that whole extent. So in zoom level 7, you have 9 tiles, and then from there on out it goes from level 8 is 20, 56, all the way down to zoom level 16 or 17. 17 is 2.4 million, so it's getting up there, but still not as bad as the entire world. But it's just a handy little tool that you really need to give an idea of how much tiles it needs to process. It's there. So the first thing that you need to do is, or that we do, is what base map data do you want to use? There's lots of good options out there. We got OpenStreetMap. Esri has definitely some good WMS stuff that they put out there into the world, like the terrain map and world topo stuff that they have. I find it very nice. Bing, it's my go-to like satellite imagery if I need something quick. And it's very good resolution. Sometimes can be dated and you don't know what the dates are in some imagery when you get down into the higher, larger scales. Have access to Landsat 8, Sentinel 2, medium resolution. If you're in Alex's talk the other day, he talked more about all the resolutions, temporal and stuff like that. We have access to air photos from the BC government, ranging in years, sometimes from 1980s to even 2006, 2010. And even getting down, we have even some UAV imagery from drone work that we do as well on specific sites, so that can be used as well. So this is where you need to think when you are tiling, and I'll explain this in later slides. You need to think about the inputs that you want, where you want them, and the different configurations that you want for a specific project that might be being used on the territory by the monitors that we have at Takla Nation. So with this, the different configurations are endless for a tiling project. The idea is to play around and find the best fit, and sometimes you might just have to fail and do it again. So first step is prepping the base data, so you need to bring it into Q. That can be done in a number of ways. Bringing in, serving it up from WMS, web servicing, so that's from Esri, Bing, maybe some Google stuff. TIFFs are we bring in as well, but at Takla we have the capacity to, we have a server that we can serve up from. So sometimes I've done some projects where gather all the Sentinel-2 imagery or air photos and just serve them up from our own server into the project as well. And that's another talk about how that happens. Next, you kind of want to apply the layer visibility within the project. So this the way we tile these base maps is that you're not limited to just one base map. You can actually make several, but you just have to set the imagery to certain scales and what do you think works best at a bigger or higher scale, and then going down into the higher resolution. So what you need to do for that project is set the visibility on it and scale dependent base layers. So about last week, I started just to do a project for Takla. Haven't actually processed it yet, but I just wanted to show you guys what that kind of would look like. So I started at zoom level 7, and I used the Esri Rule Topo WMS that I brought in. And the next image over is zoom level 9. So it gives you an idea of what it would kind of look like if you have the app at your fingertips and moving in and out. So zoom level 10 captures the whole territory, zoom level, and then I didn't include zoom level 8, just want to go to zoom level 9, gets a little better. But then in the QGIS project, I switched it. I turned off the visibility for the world topo and switched to something else, which is the Sentinel-2 imagery that actually Alex produced and served up, that you guys saw in one of his workshops yesterday. We do have access to this, but it was great to just serve it up. And this is all imagery from last year with very little cloud cover. So what's good about this, though, from switching from one to another, is that you can go into something totally different, but it's still very descriptive. No, topo is good. It's good for out there, like just finding your way. But then you go into Sentinel, you can see the landscape, see cut blocks that have been recently cut with how the imagery is set up, and even dive in deeper. So I did this for zoom levels 10 and 11, and then next I just went to Bing imagery. And then from that I went to zoom level 12, 13. And Bing imagery is great, a little data, but this resolution is good. It's much better for satellite imagery. I went, and you can see I'm focusing on, if you go back even further, go territory, next one, or focusing, Takla Lake is just this top portion right here, but then we have Bear Lake, which is another important community in the nation, so I'm focusing in on that on zoom level 11. And then even further, we did some research recently in the last couple of weeks out there, and so we're zooming in. You can see the old airstrip. That's just north of the lake and going forward. So even getting down into zoom level 16, I brought in some UAV data that we flew out there in the last few weeks. And I turned it on. And again, you have to remember that I'm just switching layers with scale, visibilities, just switching them as soon as they hit. So use some UAV imagery, and this is just a little spawning site for a steelhead that we're looking at with the drone. So you can go from a very high scale all the way down to very, very high resolution. And this is at zoom level 18, this image right here. So after that project's made in Q there, and you set up your project in a way that you're happy with the different scales that you want. Next is to download QTiles plugin, and if you haven't downloaded already, it's a plugin developed by NextGIS, and it generates the raster tiles from the QGIS project that you made for selected zoom levels. It also packages the tiles in a variety of formats, so it can be like EMS format, or MB tiles is what we use when bringing it into Geopaparazzi. So this is what the GUI looks like, or the graphical user interface. Hopefully that's visible. So at the top there, what we do is we output it to MV Tiles, which is technically an SQLite database, more or less, under the file section. If you wanted to create, it can also output to a tile map service, as I said before, under the directory section. Next, you would choose the extent, which is very important. You don't want to miss that step, because if you don't choose it, then it'll probably go wild and all over the place, and you'll have too many tiles to process. So you can use a vector layer for that, which is the Takla traditional territory, as I used. And I chose 7 to 16 as the zoom levels, bearing in mind that more higher levels equals more tiles, which in turn equals more processing and longer wait times. Check on MV tiles compression, which seems to help sometimes. Hit run, and QTiles will compute how many tiles it will render, and then will automatically start the job. I found that every tile renders every half second or so, and so you can see, I can read the number here for you. 1,278,524 tiles we need to process to grab everything from that QGIS project with world topo, Sentinel imagery, and Bing imagery, and also some of the UAV stuff as well. And I've calculated that. I mean, it could very well vary, but that's 7.5 days or 177 hours. So hopefully you have a long weekend and just let the computer run. That could vary though too, again, depending on processing power and whatnot as well. So that's how QTiles works. It's very, very simple and very easy to use. So once it's outputted to the MV Tiles format, it's ready to go and brought into Geopaparazzi. So I took a few screenshots of what Geopaparazzi looks like. Here's the home screen. And sorry, Geopaparazzi is only available on Android. So any Apple users out there, tough luck. So you need to copy the MV Tiles file over to the file folder, which is very easy with an Android these days. Open the Geopaparazzi and the tile maps, the map view. So here's the home screen. You would hit this little button up here. You'd bring that in. You would add it right here, and then it'll bring it down to the list. And then you just hit the file, and then you go to your map view, which is this button right here, and then you have a dynamic map at your fingertips. You can zoom in and out, and it just makes it great for people who are on the landscape that need to go all over the landscape and have it right at their fingertips. So in conclusion, Geopaparazzi is the freedom to create whatever you want and whatever you need. The possibilities of creating many different base maps from QGIS are endless. You can also add in vectors as well, just include them in your QGIS project. Another benefit is tiles are stored on a disk file for rapid distribution, so if someone needs that, it's just easy to grab once it's processed and just give it to somebody else. What you create is a custom dynamic map that is at your fingertips and greatly enhances the user's experience. So thank you for that, and that's how I create tiles.
We do have time for one question maybe before we have hot lunch, so I will make my way to that.
Microphone. When you're done tiling and you have that file ready, how big is it?
It really depends on the zoom levels. So something for this size, Geopaparazzi recommends that for their app to run smoothly and whatnot, MV Tiles should have no more than 3 gigs in one of the files. Scott and I have ran a couple of them that are quite massive actually, I think even upwards of 12, and it still does very good work. So it's quite large. So that would be like that example there would probably be around 12, 10 gigabytes or so. That's just a guess though.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Is the Geopaparazzi require is there any cost on it, or is it another open source software?
Yeah, it's Phosphor-G, so it's endorsed by the OSGeo, so it's completely free. I think it's generated by FT guys that are, I don't know where they're from, but the source code is there and everything as well, so yeah, it's absolutely free.
And you can do data collection with it, right?
Yes, so I didn't dive deep into Geopaparazzi due to time and whatnot. But once you're there on the landscape, you have the ability to make, if you're there, you can track your GPS track, you can do georeference notes if you want to plug something in. It's a form-based, so if you have, you can configure your own forms and bring it into Geopaparazzi as well for monitoring programs. And any photos you take are georeferenced as well. So.
There are communities that use LightShift, which requires you to have a subscription plus connection to the internet while you're out there, through your cell phone, which keeps it out of reach for a lot of communities. So this is nice. So thank you for showing us this.
Yeah, no problem. It's a great piece of software that I hope everybody eventually uses. So.